Hey, you've just stepped into the Caring Corner, where life's caregiving challenges meet a whole lot of heart and a dash of sass. I'm Mischelle O'Neal, and I'm here to serve up insights, inspiration, and real life tools to help you navigate caring for your kids and aging loved ones without forgetting about you. Expect everything from time management hacks and emotional wellness strategies to technology tips sprinkled with humor and tenacity. Are you ready? Let's get to it. Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Caring Corner. I'm your host and resident emotional wellness coach, Mischelle O'Neal. Today, we're diving into an important topic that many of us often choose not to deal with, or we believe we can handle it on our own. And that's knowing when it's time to seek professional mental health support. Balancing a career, caregiving, and personal growth can lead to, well, emotional exhaustion. And sometimes self care just isn't enough to address what's really going on. But don't worry, I've got a fantastic guest with me today who will provide valuable insights, and that's Rellie Medina, a practicing a psychotherapist and a life coach. And she's here to help us recognize the signs that we might need deeper support and share how we can take the first steps toward actually seeking therapy. So let's dive in. Now, I want to dive in first to Rellie's biography before I bring her on. Rellie is a practicing psychotherapist, a LCSW, dedicated to helping clients access the resources within themselves to live a more fulfilled and joyful life. Woohoo! Now, she hosts the podcast show Daily Mom's Joy with Rellie, offering tools and resources to moms. She's also a life coach training with the Robbins Medinas training and works exclusively with moms, helping them rediscover their mom joy. In addition to her 13-year healthcare experience, she's a certified yoga instructor through Anahata Earth Hatha Yoga. See, I had to get that one right, and registered through Yoga Alliance. With her expertise and extensive background in multiple areas of wellness, she offers a unique approach to life coaching and clinical practice. Rellie is a mom of three adorable, handsome boys, a wife, and a dog mom, and she loves spending time with her family. Check out her social media and you'll see. And she loves eating good food and baking macarons. And let me tell you, I've seen some of her food and it's phenomenal. But without further ado, let me go ahead and bring on Rellie. Hey, Rellie, did you see me fumble through that?
Oh, you did amazing. And you got Anahata Earth right. So, hey, that's
Yay! So thank you. Do you know, can you tell we kind of know each other, off screen too, often, just a little bit. It's been such a joy knowing her. And it's less than a year, right? Correct?
yes, I think we're coming up on our year friend anniversary, actually.
Yay! So, so, and we'll probably see it on Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I am so thrilled that you agreed to be part of this. We've had back, what do you say, offline conversations about when when you need a therapist, what the difference is. We're both coaches. I'm an emotional wellness coach, so we have a lot to talk about all the time, and share not client notes, but just notes about things that we knew, because you can't do that.
Mhm.
But just having those conversations, and it's been really a joy talking to someone that kind of understands where you are. And with that said, I want to jump right into the first question. Rellie, you have an impressive background as both a psychotherapist and a life coach. Can you share with us a pivotal moment that led you to actually focusing on helping moms? Because I know they're your heart, and we've talked about that, and about helping them actually rediscover their joy and how that has influenced your approach to mental health.
Absolutely. And thank you, Michelle, for having me. I am so excited. As you mentioned, we've had conversations offline about this, and it was natural that, hey, these conversations that we have in private would be great to share with people because
Yes.
these are real conversations. And for me, and, my approach to things is having that openness and
Mhm.
being able to have real conversations about mental health, about wellness without feeling that stigma, without feeling judged. And
Mhm.
that's super important to me. Something that actually happened in my own journey, and it's actually a personal story. It's not really a professional one, even though with the years that I've had in my professional background, what brought me to this was real life stuff. And in 2020, I had my joy of my having my now 4-year-old son. And it was amazing. It was my first time being a stay-at-home mom. Of
Mhm.
course, we were all staying at home then because, as you know, 2020 was our pandemic. And I actually gave birth
No way.
right smack in the middle of the shutdowns. The um, hospital, I always kind of joke that it felt like a scene from The Walking Dead because there was really nobody there. It was very, very silent, very eerie. And it was just an interesting experience, one that you don't really plan for, right? And
Mhm.
um, even though, regardless of the pandemic, I had made in that time in my life, I had made the decision to be a stay-at-home mom, and that was very scary for me. I was a corporate mom for years. I worked since I was 15, and it was a family decision. I started noticing some signs, which we'll talk about a little bit later, in my own life, where I felt like this isn't serving me. What I'm doing in my life is not serving me. I need a change. So I took action. And part of that was for me to stay at home with my two other kids. And lo and behold, I got pregnant with my third. So here I was. I had him in 2020. I was at home, and I had those feelings again that I had when I was in corporate world, where I felt irritable all of a sudden, and I didn't necessarily feel there was a fulfillment there. I felt like something was missing. I had
Mhm.
my
Mhm.
beautiful children. I was so elated with being a new mom, but there were challenges. We have to talk about the challenges. I was breastfeeding around the clock. He was not sleeping. I did not get one of
Wow.
the babies
Mhm.
oh, he slept. And you get that question first. Does your baby sleep? My answer was, no, no, he does not. And neither do I. And neither does any of us. So it was challenging. But, as time went on, I realized that this was beyond just sleep deprivation. This was beyond just um, being a new mom, there was burnout. I felt burned out. And I recognized those signs when I was in corporate world. So
Mhm.
here I was at home, burnt out at home. And a lot of that had to do with my personal growth. I recognized I started my own search for answers. I started my own coaching journey, and I realized that my personal growth was starved. It was starving. It was at like a 0.
Mhm.
And if
And
you
it's so
follow
important.
Yes, it is. So if you follow
Mhm.
me, I talk a lot about the 6 human needs. That was a term coined by Chloe Madanis, and it's based on human need psychology, that we all have 6 basic human needs.
Right,
And
right.
one of those, because we could have a whole session on those, but one of those is growth. And
Mhm.
for me, being a person that leads with growth, I was missing that in my life. So that was the main pivotal moment that I said, okay, I need to do something with that personal growth. And because I'm a mental health professional, and because mental health is my life, I love what I do. I feel God gives us all gifts, and that's mine. And I feel like
Absolutely.
we have to
Mhm.
utilize our gifts, or they go underutilized, and you can't serve anybody if you don't use your gift. So
And oh, go ahead.
no, that's okay. And so I was just going to end with that. That was, that was my moment in utilizing my personal growth to help other moms, because I knew exactly where they are because I was there myself.
And that's perfect, because that leads into my next question with, your understanding of that. And I noticed that um y- your social media and everything really speaks to finding that joy. And it's so funny because in caregiving, for me as an emotional wellness coach, one of the things I talk about is how do we find that joy in those moments. And that's one of the things I focus on teaching my ladies, because it if we don't, we do get beat down, stressed out, burned out. All those things happen when we are not looking for the positive or the things to be grateful for in our lives. And so many of our listeners are actually juggling caregiving, careers, and personal growth, which we both know is so important. In fact, she's told me, okay, you need to stop learning all this stuff. Just keep rolling with what you know. So I'm always, in fact, I just thought, I'm gonna let you know, I just thought of something else I want to learn more on. But anyway, all of this leads to feeling overwhelmed or emotionally drained. And so, what are some of the signs that indicate that they might need more professional mental health help beyond just the self-care and the coaching and the day-to-day coping mechanisms that you can kind of help them figure that, that it's time, look, I need more help. I'm not managing this. Something is wrong.
Absolutely. So, you know, two terms that get utilized a lot, right, are depression and anxiety, right? So depression and anxiety are you can almost say it's like the bread and butter of mental health. Of if I'm feeling depressed, if I'm feeling anxious, a lot of people though equate that with depression. When you think of depression, maybe they have a perception of I am unable to get out of bed, right? I'm unable to shower, I'm unable to take care of myself. I'm sad to the point where I can't function. And that is absolutely signs of major depression. But they utilize that as their baseline, right? Or
Okay.
anxiety to the point of, if I'm having major panic attacks, ongoing panic attacks, then that's the baseline for anxiety. But as always, there is a spectrum, right? There are
Right.
different areas of levels of depression, levels of anxiety, and we have to identify where we are, right? So, the number one thing about all of this is that mental health is not a universal um, fix it for, or a universal issue, right? Everybody
Hmm.
is very much individual. We all have
Hmm.
different levels of symptoms depending on what's going on in your life. And one of the things that I have found is day to day, looking at your day to day. So, for instance, irritability, right? Irritability is something that you can manage, right? You can go through life being irritable. It's all right. Right? Does it feel good though? Probably
No.
not. That is a sign of burnout. So I look for signs of burnout because sometimes a person may say, well, this is a change for me, but because I'm able to deal with it, and I always say I've got clients that have very high tolerance levels for pain.
Mhm.
All right. And pain meaning they could deal with irritability, they could deal with anxiety, they could deal with, depression. They're able to function through it all. But just because you have a high tolerance for it does not mean that you should. right? We don't need to test. It's like when we look at the maximum capacity inside of an elevator and you see the pounds limit, do you really want to mess with that? Do we really want to test that theory out and see how many people we can fit in that elevator? Probably not.
So let me ask you a quick question because something came up. I when you were talking about everybody individual and that we have a different levels of tolerance and what we can take on. And one of the things that come to mind is, wouldn't you say in some aspects that's a learned behavior? Your tolerance of pain is almost like how we used to in the past grow up little boys don't cry, you don't cry, be a man, stand strong. And so it's not that you don't feel that pain, you've learned that it's not accepted to talk about or show that pain. So would you agree that that's some of it? That's and as women, we're, hey, you could do it. You just do it. I'm a mom. I just got to do it. I just
Exactly.
whatever.
Push
I'm
the
the daughter. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you. Say that
the
again.
the push through it mentality, right? So
Mhm.
I'm a mom. One of the terms that we hear a lot is that super mom term, right? And that term could be a good term or it could be
Yeah.
a not so good term. When it's a not
Mhm.
so good term is when people use that as their badge of honor to run themselves ragged and
Mhm.
completely dismiss all red flags that their body is giving them that they need help, right? So that's the only time that goes out the window. But to answer a little bit more of your question, yeah, I would say learned behavior, right? But also we have a nervous system, right? We have survival brain.
Exactly.
Our
Mhm.
nervous system, um, it knows what to do to protect us. So
Right.
I say a
Mhm.
lot when it comes to our emotions and our anxiety, we have to lean into our emotions to see really what are they trying to tell us rather than avoid them, right? Rather than try focusing on avoiding the anxiety or avoiding, the crying like you mentioned, the little boys don't cry. It's more about leaning into the emotion and saying, what is upsetting you? What is my sadness trying to tell me? Um, so a lot of this can come from, yes, learned behavior, but also innate survival that is saying, I have to protect myself. And
Mhm.
in doing so, I may go to my go to coping mechanisms, and some of those coping mechanisms don't necessarily serve me. So, awareness is so important.
Oh
And
my gosh, I did a whole thing on awareness. Yes.
yes,
Yes.
and identifying what those burnout symptoms are for you. And that would be the main takeaway, that your sign of burnout may look different than my sign of burnout, but nevertheless, it's burnout.
Right. And so when I think about burnout, one of the things that I know for me, because we can't speak for everyone else, but we know how things work for us. I can feel when I'm starting to get to that level where I either need to pull back or my body's going to shut down for me. And that's something that normally happens for me. It literally shuts down where I'm in the bed and I can't do anything or I'm really sick. It's like all the sickness that's in my body just says, "Hey, you're done.
Yeah,
You're
slow
done."
down.
And so I've learned awareness, how to know when I'm starting to get near that point or even starting to get into the habits that take me to that point, and I'll pull back and I'll pull myself back if I need to get off social media, if I need to stay away from people more, whatever it is that I need to stop the stimulation. I've
Hmm.
learned to do that so that I don't totally. So, with that said, and you can jump in anytime. So you- you're such a good listener too. So
It's my therapy, active listening.
I know, and I know this personally. She's such a great listener. So, with that said, in your experience, when does it become clear that someone should seek therapy rather than just rely on that self help or that coaching? And what are some key indicators that professional intervention is necessary to support their emotional wellness?
Absolutely. So, we've talked a little bit about, so what are some signs, right, that you can look for? Signs are individual to all
Mhm.
of us, but when you get to the point of this is impacting my functionality, that's where, and the answer is yes, it's impacting my functionality, then that's where, all right, we got to do something and we have to do it now. And functionality means, because a lot of people think, again, when you think of the picture of depression, is someone that's laying in their bed and they're not engaging with anybody, or they don't want to they're isolating, it's the word that I'm
Mhm.
looking for. But that's not everybody. People
Right.
can be burnt out and people can still have their functionality, day to day is impaired, without those things, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So a person can be functional talking day to day, but if they're starting to have thoughts inside of their mind, internal, that they no longer want to be here in this world, right? Now
Right.
we're talking about not just suicidal ideation, but thoughts of a death wish. I wish I would just get up and or not get up this morning. That's something
Mhm.
that we have to talk about, because that, even though is not a suicidal by our clinical terms of suicidal ideation with an intention, with a plan, that is a red flag.
Right,
Right.
right.
That is something that is impacting when we have those thoughts, when those thoughts come into our minds, that impacts our emotion. And that emotion is going to impact our behavior. And that's something that I base a lot of my coaching on, is and my therapy, my cognitive behavioral therapy, or
Right.
theories that I apply to therapy, is the idea that our thoughts are automatic. A lot of the times we don't pay attention to them, but we do pay attention to the emotion. But what starts it is that there's a situation, so a trigger, a thought,
Mhm.
followed by an emotion, followed by a behavior. So
Right, right.
the idea is that if we can identify the thought, challenge the thought, then we can influence the change of emotion and influence the change of behavior. Um, Once we start having those thoughts, absolutely, that is a time. Social isolation. Social
Right.
isolation is a big one. If you are somebody that is typically an outgoing person, and you notice yourself, you've completely isolated, you've completely retreated, you're not answering text messages, you're not wanting to talk to anybody, and this is a consistent thing. And I'm not talking about setting boundaries once in a while, you need a break
Right.
and you need to put the phone down. I mean consistently, right? Is that awareness? Hey, is this something that's becoming a habit for me? And once that turns into habitual behavior, then okay, this is a red flag. I need some help. So those are two main things, that I think a lot of people, they keep it to themselves, right? They don't necessarily talk about, but it's something to be aware of. So that way, hey, this is maybe the time to go speak to someone.
And that's where that awareness, like you said, is so important. But along with the awareness is also reflection. And that's what so many of us don't do. And we don't understand just how important that reflection piece is to actually remove yourself, if this makes sense, remove yourself emotionally and look back over things. How am I feeling about this? How does this feel in my body? What's happening when these certain emotions are happening? Where am I feeling this? Is it a knot in my stomach? Is it a headache? Is it a tenseness in my shoulder? How can I recognize this? And why do I feel this way? What happened to make? And that reflection, even take during that exercise, maybe once a week, of looking at things that really stood out to you, that changed your behavior or made you go inside yourself, pull yourself away, is just a great practice to have in our lives. So,
100%. We have to check in, you guys.
mhm.
Everybody, we have to check in with ourselves. And checking in with ourselves isn't like checking our email or checking our text messages. We have to take a moment, very productive few moments, to say, what am I feeling? And how often am I feeling this way? And that is important to gauge. We have to measure that.
Mhm.
I'll tell you another quick personal story for me. If a lot of people I've been mentioning this too, but my father passed away in April,
Oh,
and I've been going through my own grief journey. And grief is a very up and down, right, thing. The physical aspect, a lot of us don't talk about the physical aspect of grief, but um there is such a physiological aspect of this, because again, we have a body that's connected to our mind, right? We are one human being. We can't segregate mental health versus physical health, and they do influence each other. For me,
yes.
yes, 100%. My gut went haywire. My gut went haywire after my dad passed away. And everybody, when I would share this with, with friends or with family members, it's kind of like, yeah, well, that makes sense. That's normal. And I started thinking to myself, well, yeah, that makes sense. That's normal. But it's not.
No.
We cannot continue to think that, hey, do I, so does that mean I have to suffer through it? I don't want to have to suffer through this. So it got to a point where, again, going to functionality, just because I can work, just because everything else is fine, but this is impacting how I feel every single day and what I'm eating and how I feel after I eat. Therefore, I have to do something about it. And
Well,
that's nobody else's responsibility but my own.
right, but it's that feeling of, and normal, I kind of understand on the other side. What they're saying is that usually happens to people, but
Yes,
it doesn't mean you have to live there.
exactly.
That's the difference.
That's
Yeah.
that's the takeaway. Like I said, a lot of us have pain tolerance, right? And
Mhm.
I could live with this pain tolerance, sure, but I don't want to.
Yes. Yeah. I love that. And exactly. And so, and I want to go back real quick to something you were talking about. People always think suicide is about physically taking your life. And I think this month, I can't remember if it's mental health month or if it's, suicide month. I can't remember which, and I'm sorry for remembering exactly, for not remembering. But what really stood out to me is the fact that sometimes it could be like, I hope this car runs into a tree
Mhm. Oh
and I
yeah,
die.
right.
Or doing things like preparing for something to happen to you by, like, long time ago, it was me sending my daughter to my mom's. So it's clearing the field,
Right.
and so look at things like that. What things are you clearing? What things are you wishing, like you said, to happen, that you physically don't take, like walking in dangerous places that something can happen to you
Mhm.
and not caring. That's the key. You don't care. It's crazy to do that, but that added of not caring whether something happens to you. And so look at your thought patterns, really check out your thought patterns. And I just wanted to throw that in. And if I'm wrong, you're the therapist,
No,
jump in there.
I agree. It's just, it kind of just ties in with the checking in with ourselves, right? Because that's,
Mhm.
just talking about internal thoughts and what we may say to ourselves when we wake up in the morning. Ugh, I woke up this morning. Ugh, that's
Mhm.
one thought. But what you're speaking of is that behavior aspect, right? So going back to thoughts influence our behaviors. If we're having that type of thinking on an ongoing basis,
Right.
the behavior that is going to be the result of that is going to be careless behavior, high risk behavior.
Right. Right. And so, and we just have to be cognitive of that, those things, CBT. But the other thing is, for those who might be hesitant or really unsure about seeking therapy, what advice do you have on how to take just that first step, and usually that's the hardest, the first step. Are there practical ways to evaluate when professional help is needed that we haven't already covered, versus continuing with your trying to do it all on your own, or trying to figure it out, or listen to aunt so and so, or cousin so and so, or mom, you know what are things that will help them take that first step?
Well, I would say a couple of things. One thing that I wanted to throw in quickly was listen to your support people, your loved ones, right? Ask if for those that are blessed enough to have support, because I have many clients that our first step is building a support system. It's that
Mhm.
important, you guys. It's
A
that
good support system. There's a difference between support, or
yeah.
people in your life versus good people in your life.
The right people. Yes, the
Right.
people, the right
Mhm.
support, because we have to, not everybody is the right support for everything. I've actually talked about this before. Um, and yeah, I just spoke about my grief journey. I'll tell you, not everybody has been the right support to be there throughout a grief journey, right? But then
Right.
I've got other people that are, these are the right people for that. It's not good nor bad. It's either this
Right,
is
right.
right for this
Bad
situation.
choice of words.
So building that right support, and that right tribe for yourself, that right village, um,
Mhm.
that's so important. Listen, if you have one that you already have, and it's a one that's very supportive, listen to them. If they notice that something's off, and it's coming from a good intention, from a kind and caring heart, it's lean into that and listen to that, be open. But also, this is the number one. Meet yourself where you are. All right. Meet yourself where you are. Um, it's like rule number one for anybody in therapy. Even when I work with people, I have to meet my clients where they are. I can't, I don't have a magic wand. I wish I did. I love fairies. I wish I had a magic wand. I don't. So, it'd be great to be able to say, well, yes, please do this, and then the person goes, okay, it is done, right? And wonderful. But that's not the way this works. We are all beautifully complex. We are all
Mhm.
beautifully complex. So we have to start in with that check-in. Where am I at right now? What is keeping me from seeking the help that I deserve? And that takes me to my next thing. We have to reframe the way our beliefs about mental health. So we've touched on thoughts and the power of our thoughts, but what drives those thoughts are our belief systems. And our belief systems can work for us or they can work against us. If we
Right.
have a limiting belief that says mental health is for crazy people, how many times have we heard that? Raise your hand, right? Mental health, I don't need that stuff. I got Netflix, I got my six pack in the fridge. I've got, the people at
Shopping therapy.
shopping therapy. I love shopping therapy. I have Amazon, add to cart, right? Add to cart. So
No, just bypass the cart.
go straight to buy. Go to buy. But at the end of the day, those things, and this is where you have to ask yourself, is what I'm doing now working? That's a valid question. Is what I am doing now working? If you're in a situation where you are feeling like, oh, okay, well, this rally girl's talking about irritability. I've been kind of feeling irritable lately, and I've been feeling kind of burnt out, kind of like I can't breathe. My body's been physically tense lately. What is something what am I doing about this? Ask yourself, is what I'm using to cope working? And if the answer is no, then we have to be open to the idea that there's something better. And with that comes, we have to give ourselves permission. We have to tell ourselves we deserve to be supported. So I love a good reframe. If you guys follow me, I love a good reframe. So I would say, instead of saying to yourself, I don't need help, say to yourself instead, I deserve support.
Awesome. Beautifully said. Ah, nice quote. We're gonna have to pull that one. Every time you kept saying, I have to say this, every time you kept saying, um, ask yourself, does it work? I'm thinking to myself, how's that working for you?
Yeah. How's that working for you, right? How's that working for you?
so, so I'm sorry, that sounds hard, but we get to that point, and I see that a lot in some of my clients and people that I talk to, and where things aren't working, and like in my family, I'm not going to go into detail. She knows my daughter has bipolar, and part of that is a lot of times when they're spiraling or they're going through an episode, they don't see it because it becomes natural or just the way they are. And so there are times that we have conversations, and I said, and I can say, uh, seems like you may be spiraling, or it seems like you may be on the up right now, and she'll start thinking about what's happening. She says, I never thought about that. And that kind of checks your behavior or make you step back and look at what's going on in your life. And that's the things that, if we can learn to do it for ourselves, but sometimes we need that support because, like you said, they can see things that has become so natural for you or so rote for you that you need that outside intervention.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
Rellie, Rellie has her own podcast. Daily Mom's Joy is one of the things I want to talk to. I think we have actually covered, you know, all of my clients' deep burning things. We talked about the shame, feeling ashamed, and the guilt of saying that I need help. And I wish more people would actually do that. I wish they would um get rid of the stigma behind needing help, um, and before it gets to the point where you have to have a therapist, where we as coaches can jump in and help them, at that point where they're still um, manageable, where they can manage it themselves without the additional help. Um, but like I said, you host an amazing podcast, Daily Mom's Joy, where you offer tools and resources to moms. Follow her on social media. She is awesome. I love watching the things that her and her family do together. And she shows you, even in the chaotic, how to find the joy, where to find the funnies and all that. Because life is funny. It really is. Or a lot of it, you can find that. Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Have to laugh. We do.
You do. And if you really think about it, this going off subject, comedians, if you really think about what they talk about, they're talking about real life situations, but they found the funny in it, and they're able to laugh at themselves, not just other people, but at themselves. One of my favorite comedians is Fluffy, because he laughs at himself and he tells real life things that happen to him. Do you know Fluffy, by the way?
I don't.
Okay, well, you need to look up Fluffy. Fluffy is awesome. No, but could
Love.
you, like I said, she shares these amazing tools and resources. And could you share right now some of the tools and practices that can help moms better manage their mental health and recognize when it's time to seek that deeper ones that maybe we haven't already shared, or something that you're offering, through your podcast or your page, that would help my ladies?
Absolutely. So, we've touched on the signs of burnout, when we need to start taking action. For moms, I'm going to add one little thing. We sometimes it's not necessarily the stigma, it's the perceived I don't have time limited belief, right? Because we put everybody else in front of us and our giant to-do lists that are oh so long before we put ourselves first. But my analogy when it comes to motherhood is we are the well, and we are the well in a village. And if the well gets contaminated, guess what? The whole village suffers. So our children suffer, our loved ones suffer, our spouses, our pets, everybody. It's our responsibility to care for the well. And with that said, I have my mom village that I am very proud of. Our Facebook group, it's called Village Wisdom for Moms Seeking Peace and Balance, right? So, two things that we're always, most of us would agree that we're always seeking. And I do lives on Fridays. We get together, bring your coffee, bring your laundry, bring your kids, whatever, and we'll go ahead and talk about some tools. And we usually do a theme every week. This week we're we've been touching on boundaries because that's a big one. And through the podcast, absolutely. And then finally, for my moms who just need that little extra push, I do have a 3-day audio program. I just launched it a couple months ago. I'm very proud of it. And it's called Busy Mom's Break. And it is designed by a busy mom for my busy moms. It's equipped with tools, mindfulness techniques. It comes with a workbook. The workbook is optional, you guys. We could use an old receipt. We all know we have an old receipt and a crayon somewhere. And
Girl.
Yes, it's somewhere in the car.
Or a tissue.
Yes, or a tissue.
Just right.
Hey, Mischelle. Look.
Yeah, see?
Like I got my gun and my tissue.
I need something, old letter, whatever.
We can be absolutely, and we know we're super resourceful when it comes to our children. We have to utilize those amazing skills that we have for ourselves. So the 3-day audio program is available. And if you want that, we'll be sharing the links, and that link is there. And of course, I'm always available for one-on-one private coaching for those are ready to take the next step.
And she's amazing. She's an amazing friend as well. And so, look, I am so glad that you were all able to hang out with us today. And if you found today's discussion helpful, make sure to subscribe and share this podcast, can't talk today, with anyone who would benefit from it. And don't forget to leave a comment and a review. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and new insights that you're looking to adopt to actually manage your burnout, your overwhelm, and seek help if you need to. I want to thank you for joining me and my special guest, Rellie, and today on the Caring Corner. And until next time, stay resilient, stay strong, and keep moving forward. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, that's a wrap for today at the Caring Corner. We've tackled some big topics, but remember, you're not in this alone. Subscribe to keep the wisdom and warmth coming, and stay tuned for amazing guests who'll be joining us to help round out your caregiving toolkit. Catch you next time, and keep conquering those challenges.